not by accident that Indonesia was attacked. Because the Indonesian is different. He's a warrior, he's a fighter. He'll give his life for Islam, the Indonesian.
Ojo lali disubrek ya.
Assalamualaikum semuanya. Selamat kembali ke channel ini. Kepada kalian semua yang sentiasa bantu support dukung us, jika channel ini jutaan terima kasih ucapkan. Okay, kepada kalian yang baru yang masih belum gabung sama Eddy TV, ayolah bantu dengan tekan butang subscribe, kerana subscribe itu gratis aja, geng. Okay, seperti biasanya, sebelum as mulai, as ingin mendoakan buat sesiapa saja yang menonton video as kali ini agar dilimpahi dengan kurniaan rezeki yang luar biasa yang tidak akan pernah putus-putusnya, diberikan kekuatan dan kesabaran dalam menghadapi apa juga ujian, dipermudahkan segala urusan kehidupan, juga urusan pekerjaan, dimakbulkan setiap impian serta doa-doa kalian, insyaAllah, amin. Okeylah, hari ini as nak react satu lagi video daripada channel Khidr TV. Okay, Khidr TV. Okay, jangan lupa untuk bantu subscribe, tanda dukungan kita. Okay, kali ini kita melihat katanya kalian harus tonton video ini, katanya penegasannya, karena sebelum menghina bangsa Indonesia, katanya kalian harus tonton video ini karena bangsa Indonesia adalah merupakan seorang pejuang dan juga petarung. Kalian tahu tuh. Oke, ingin lihat inti ataupun fakta selanjutnya? Yuk, ikut us react. Yuk. Oke, udah siap semuanya. Yuk kita mula. Bismillah.
Europe is empowered with a power which the rest of the world combined cannot match. If you think this happened by accident, you should go and buy a house in Disneyland. And Europe uses that power to attack the rest of the world and colonize it. If you think that happened by accident, go and live in Disneyland. When Europe colonized, it was something very sinister going on. It was made even more sinister because suddenly one day Europe started to withdraw. They call it decolonization. And as Europe decolonized, the natives now, they have something that they call, I don't know if you heard about it, independence. Huh?
Merdeka.
Independence.
Kemerdekaan.
And they have a flag, and they have a national anthem, huh? And they have a hodgepodge of an army and so on. And then sometime in the middle of the night, they would have the lowering of the flag and the raising of the flag, and they'll be dancing and so on. And they say, we've got freedom. But the European will be hiding behind a mango tree and laughing his belly out. Look at these one-eyed fools. They think they have got freedom, that they drove Europe out. No, Europe withdrew for tactical and strategic reasons. But before Europe withdrew, decolonized, Europe planted some truly dangerous seeds.
Ooh.
But the only way you could recognize those dangerous seeds is if you have nur from Allah. Not just knowledge that you get from the books. That's important. Yes, that is important. But you need something more than that. The first seed that Europe planted, that is in the essence of Islam, that you must recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Al-Malik, the one who possesses Al-Mulk, sovereignty. That's the translation for Mulk, sovereignty.
Sovereignty,
but now
kedaulatan.
Europe leaves behind a dangerous seed called the modern secular state. And the modern secular state declares, we no longer recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Al-Malik. The state is now Al-Malik, sovereign. And that is shirk. So this was the seed of shirk, political shirk, which was planted. How many Muslims saw it and recognized it? How many of our distinguished and learned ulama, for whom we have respect, we don't speak disrespectfully of them, not at all. How many of them recognized that this was shirk? We even had ulama in politics. Yeah, What am I in politics? We've had Islamic movements becoming a political party and fighting in elections like everybody else. Still going on now. But the second seed that Europe planted before withdrawing was the seed of transformation of money. Money was no longer going to be sunnah money, money which had intrinsic value, but rather we now have a new kind of money. It's paper money, and it does not possess intrinsic value. The value of the money is outside of the money. And so now I'm paid my salary in paper. It could buy a camel. Took it home, gave it to my wife, put it away. 5 years later, take it out, can't buy a camel anymore, can only buy a donkey now. Did you hear that?
Yes.
My 1 month of sweat is now reduced. Only 2 weeks have been kept in the money. And 2 weeks of my sweat has disappeared. Is this permissible in Islam? Allah speaks in the Quran. The Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam, and the market or the economy of the people of Shu'aib alayhi salam is a corrupted market. There's a lot of ripping off going on in this market. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to it in the Quran, and He declares 3 times in the Quran. Listen to the words. وَلَا تَبْخَسُ النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Do not do this. My 1 month is now reduced to 2 weeks. Do not diminish and make less the value of people's property, people's labor, etc. That is haram. And
Haram,
so this
mashallah.
money which is losing value is by the definition of the Quran haram. But we were asleep. We were all asleep. And we didn't recognize. We were being taken for a ride. And then it would have become clear that my loss was somebody else's gain. Let me repeat that. When my money could no longer buy a camel, it could only buy a donkey. The value of my labor has been diminished by half. My loss was somebody else's gain. 5 years later, when I take it out, can't buy a donkey anymore. Can only buy a goat now. And so my 1 month has now been diminished to 1 week. If this keeps on going on, I'm going to be enslaved. A new slavery will come upon the world if this keeps on going on like this. Surely it was time for the ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam to stop fighting amongst themselves over popcorn. Because that's what they're doing. Fighting over popcorn. While this massive betrayal of Islam is taking place, and we are blissfully ignorant of it. That's the price we pay when we only have scholarship but no nur. 5 years later, when you take out that money, can't buy a goat anymore. You only buy chicken and chips. That's where Indonesia is now. That is where Indonesia is now, chicken and chips. Yes. And still we're fighting over popcorn. If you're 17 years of age tonight, son and daughter, this lecture is for you. They've been fighting over popcorn while the slavery has come upon us. The Indonesian rupiah is now trading at about 10 to 11,000 rupiah to $1 US. When the Indonesian rupiah collapsed 3 years ago, dramatically, there was nothing wrong with the Indonesian economy. The International Monetary Fund or the World Bank just 2 or 3 months earlier had given a clean bill of health to the Indonesian economy. Nothing significant had changed in that economy. when George Soros and company attacked, and the banking centers around Indonesia attacked. Singapore is one of them. The Indonesian rupiah collapsed overnight, and more than a half of the population of Indonesia were instantaneously reduced to poverty. There is such massive poverty in Indonesia today that the country is riddled with violence. And our sisters, or let's put it, my sister and my daughter and my mother must now sell her body for $1. It's very cheap now, $1. Yeah, it's happening. While those fellas are fighting over popcorn. It's not by accident that Indonesia was attacked. Because the Indonesian is different. He's a warrior, he's a fighter. He'll give his life for Islam. The Indonesian.
Tadi dapat saksikan penjelasan ataupun ucapan telah diberikan oleh Syekh Imran Hussein tentang bagaimana keadaan dunia hari ini, walaupun kita setelah dijajah, dikolonisekan oleh Eropah, oleh orang Barat. Tapi sebenarnya menurut Syekh Imran Hussein, kita telah ditanamkan dengan benih-benih yang telah mereka tinggalkan pasca decolonization itu, ataupun diberikan kita kemerdekaan, padahal sudah ditanam kepada kita, negara kita itu benih-benih yang akan memporak-porandakan kita, akan merendahkan kita balik, dan kita akan balik lagi kepada mereka. Masya Allah. Dan menurut Syekh Imran Hussein tadi, bagaimana kolonialisasi ini sebenarnya telah menyebabkan kita meninggalkan ajaran Islam, gitu kan. Macam penggunaan, kalau kita sendiri perasan sebenarnya penggunaan wang yang seperti dipercontohkan oleh Syekh Imran Hussein tadi, bagaimana kita bekerja hari ini untuk 1 bulan. Kalau dulu kita dapat gaji 1 bulan itu untuk keringat kita dalam 1 bulan, tapi sekarang enggak begitu kayaknya berlaku. Kita bekerja, keringat kita itu sudah diguna pakai 1 bulan, tapi kita dibayar gaji hanya 2 minggu kayak gitu kan. Betapa semakin lama semakin nilai duit kertas itu semakin menyusut nilainya, walhal tenaga yang kita keluarkan itu sama nilainya dengan jumlah masa yang telah kita kerja setiap bulan. Tapi itu kan enggak adil. Kalau menurut Islam itu enggak adil, okey? Kalau kita menurut Islam itu kita harus dibayar selayaknya, seperti mana betapa keringat kita keluar itu, sebanyak itulah kita dibayar, gitu kan. Kata Syekh Imran tadi, kita melihat bagaimana hari ini kalau kita duit yang kita gunakan untuk beli unta, pada selang beberapa tahunnya duit yang sama kita enggak bisa lagi beli unta, kita hanya boleh mungkin beli keldai, gitu kan. Betapa semakin lama duit dan nilai duit itu menyusut. Kita enggak tahu apakah penilaian sehingga dibuatkan perkara tersebut terjadi. Katanya itu adalah graf ekonomi yang berlaku yang normal. Tapi kalau menurut Islam itu enggak boleh terjadi kayak gitu kan. Dan kita melihat bagaimana krisis keuangan, krisis ekonomi dunia 1928 telah menyebabkan rupiah jatuh dengan teruknya, dan dikatakan ramai sekali yang dah jatuh miskin gitu, jatuh miskin disebabkan jatuhnya nilai rupiah itu dalam 1 malam aja, disebabkan oleh Soros, apa yang kita katakan tadi, George Soros punya tindakan itu menyebabkan dunia mengalami krisis ekonomi yang luar biasa hebatnya. Dan kata Syekh Imran Hussein, bagaimana Indonesia punya pejuang, dan juga pejuang yang luar biasa. Mereka menghidupkan, mereka terus meneruskan hidup walau bagaimanapun dengan menegakkan Islam, dengan menegakkan agama Islam. Walaupun mereka mengalami kesukaran, pada saat itu mereka masih bangkit dan terus berjuang, kerana di hati mereka itu mereka meletakkan Islam. Katanya kalau kita betul-betul meletakkan Islam di dalam hati kita, insya-Allah berpegang kepada sunnah, berpegang kepada Al-Quran, insya-Allah Allah sentiasa memberi pertolongan kepada kita. Ini anggaplah ini sebagai ujian yang Allah berikan, balik kepada yang satu, balik kepada Al-Quran dan Sunnah, insya-Allah kejayaan itu milik kita. Dan kita melihat sekarang apa yang telah terjadi kepada Indonesia. Indonesia itu di bawah pemimpinan Pak Jokowi sedang meningkat naik dengan luar biasa sekali, daripada sektor ekonominya, sektor pekerjaan, pertanian, apa saja yang Indonesia sedang, sehingga kan dunia sekarang ini sedang memandang Indonesia. Luar biasa banget kan, akibat daripada kesabaran dan keyakinan itu, terus berjuang demi mencapai apa yang diinginkan itu, mengembalikan kembali apa yang telah mereka hilang. Dan kali ini kita melihat bagaimana dolar sudah semakin lemah dan rupiah sedang meningkat naik, dan semoga ini adalah merupakan pengharapan baru, dan diharapkan selepas ini kita tidak lagi menggunakan wang kertas dan bertukar kepada wang dinar. Masya Allah, luar biasa. Semoga Allah merahmati kita, sentiasa dalam lindungan Tuhan selamanya, dan negara-negara Islam terus kukuh, teguhkan iman kita agar sentiasa berada dalam redha Allah, insya-Allah. Okeylah, sampai kat sini dulu video reaction nas untuk kali ini. Maaf kalau itu adalah pendapat peribadi yang menyinggung mana-mana, minta maaf, itu adalah pendapat peribadi sahaja. Okey, yang nonton bareng dengan sampai habis, jutaan terima kasih. Kita ketemu lagi insya-Allah di lain videonya. Wassalamualaikum, semuanya, jaga diri. Dadah.